just about every brand of decking has a composite rail counterpart. Trex does, TimberTech does, Fibron does. A lot of them do. They're fine. They look great.
That's the thing, man. They look so good.
They're typically very customizable, depending on the line. Some lines are only one color, but like, for example, with Trex, you can really mix and match the post color with the picket or the baluster color and the top rail color and bottom rail color and cap color, skirt color. You can change all these things to kind of create whatever one you want.
The part that's really nice about Trex is you could change literally every part, because when you go to order it, you have to order every individual part. Not a single piece of that thing comes with anything else.
Yeah.
You have to remember that it takes 75 components to put that thing together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So fun.
I don't know what TimberTech Garrett's excited about, but he's with 4 exclamation points.
You showed him a beer.
Okay.
Did you hear the facetiousness in that?
It's very pieced together to put together. It's not bad to install. Like, I'll use Trex as a reference point because that's the one I'm most familiar with.
Correct.
Like, they're all similar in a way. But typically with these things, you mount a 4x4 post into the deck. Bryce just shook his head, and I have a strong feeling it's because I said the word mount.
Mount.
And because before this episode started, you said, between him and you, thought that we should fill this episode full of sexual innuendos.
You're just outing us?
And
I feel like we've done a really great job.
We let that slide. We didn't actually do it. And the second I said mount, 34 minutes in, he was eagerly waiting.
That's the third one, right? Like, listen to this back tomorrow. Listen back to this. I've dropped 3 or 4
on purpose.
Yes, and he's like, he's like chuckled the whole time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
I've been out of it.
Yeah, keep going.
You have to understand, my blood flow to my brain's a little bit slow today because it's all in the tip of my nose.
The tip of something.
Okay, so composite rail, it's fine to install. It goes on great. The complaint you hear sometimes is that how you used to do this stuff quite a bit was to mount the 4x4 treated post in the framing, and then you put a post sleeve over top, you mount the brackets on top, you drop the rail in, you snap the balusters in or drop the balusters in. And so that's all great and fine. What some guys were experiencing, which is why Stan and those boys were looking for a different solution, was sometimes as those posts dry out, they twist, and then they can force the sleeve to twist with it, which then buckles the joint between the top rail and the sleeve. And suddenly the nice tight joint opens up. And so don't.
What happened now?
So that's a problem.
You have a spread joint?
So
what happened?
So what some guys were doing is they were using cedar was an option. The cedar is a post on the inside, less likely to twist up and dry out and change shape.
It stays truer.
Yes. But now they've got another solution they've had for a couple of years, which is a surface mount aluminum post with.
Stan had told us that he was also doing 2 2x4s.
No, he was not. Stan wouldn't do that.
Guy, I was right there.
Okay.
2 2x4s laminated together because the 2x4s weren't twisting as bad as the 4x4.
Sure. Okay.
And so
there's other options.
But
then the companies have also come out with like surface mount metal posts with 2 collars on them, similar to how like a PVC fence goes together.
Yeah.
And then you mount your brackets into those collars, and that post is not going to twist up and move and do what the wood would do. So now it becomes a much more stable system. The knock on that, though, is that those posts are 7 times more, 8 times, 10 times more than a 4x4 wood post.
Do you know how much they are? Have you sold one?
I've quoted them a couple times, yeah. So
nothing for numbers.
Probably worth it though.
$60 or what?
No, they're like I think they're like $130 Canadian for these things. So versus what, like $4 for a 4-foot chunk at 4x4?
Yeah.
So it's a significant difference in price. Now that said, they do make the install easier because you don't have to block the post into the framing and then deck around and notch everything around the post and everything. Like your framing time is much faster. And if that prevents a callback, you're probably like, that was worth it. Over and over again, right? Yeah. So there's options out there for composite rail that can give you a beautiful looking system that you're not going to have those issues with. But that's just some of the common things you hear is like sometimes the post twist, and that's not the railing's fault. It's the lumber's fault, but it happens. So be aware of it. Right?
But it's part of you have to build that into your cost.
Yep. The nice thing is though, there's no doubt about it that No dude about it.
So that happened in my brain.
Yeah, because you're Canadian.
And I was like, I should say that. And then I was
No
like,
doubt about
I
it.
don't know that I should.
There's no doubt that it looks nicer. I think there's, versus
so the
aluminum
post
looks
is-
more premium.
Yeah, the post is more substantial. The rail is more substantial. It's
Nicer
It
looking.
just looks nicer.
A well-installed composite railing looks nicer than a most aluminum rails.
I would say that a poorly installed composite rail looks better than a nicely installed aluminum.
Holy, going that far, hey?
Well,
If you oiled the post, it would prevent the drying out. Unless it's too wet that you can't oil it.
yep, that's a treated.
It's soaked full of water, you can't really oil it.
Yep.
But anyways, there's some things you might be able to do to kind of help that slow that process. But that's the problem guys were having. And this isn't coming from slouches. This is coming from like Morris decks and Stan level home improvements from back in the day. And are you really just going to, you're gone, hey? I've offended you. So, legitimate issue, but the finished product, nothing looks nicer. And you can do the lighting options. Like, I'm talking to you now, Brace, because I got no partner. I'm just going to like look at you and talk at you. You can do your post cap lights. There's different lighting options you can do with these systems. But yeah, they look great. The cost, at least here, is a bit higher than your typical aluminums. So that may be different in the States because it's more well distributed down there. It sells more. Maybe the cost is lower down there and the aluminum is higher. So don't take my word for the price difference because that could be different depending on the market you're in. But up here, aluminum is going to be, and this is Canadian dollars, but $35 to $45 a linear foot for pickets or with the balusters, and the composite rail is more like 70 to 80. So it's definitely a premium. I feel like probably in the States that's not quite the case. It's likely closer of a number in the States. TimberTech Garrett says, agreed. Composite looks better if you can afford it. Yeah. So and he's in Canada as well. So he's familiar with the price differences in these markets anyway, between aluminum and composite.